Hey everybody, welcome to TREM 2420, Sight, Sound, Motion. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. I've been teaching it for many years, and it's really fun to see how the media develops over the years and all the exciting new things and possibilities that become part of the creative media landscape. So we're going to be learning about media aesthetics in this class and also doing some practical projects in multimedia production that are linked to the things that we're going to be looking at in the textbook, Herbert Zettel's Sight, Sound, Motion. So I am John Janone, and I am an artist and filmmaker, and you can go to my website and check out some of my stuff. I produce films. I do projection design for theater as well as for dance. And I am a music composer and an animator, and I work with particularly with generative animation processes. I also do some physical computing and some motion graphics work, so you can check out my webpage and learn a little bit about my work, and love to see some of your work as well. So I know some of you posted already your introductions into the introductions channel on the Discord server, but if you want to post a little bit more, post some links to your work or your podcast or whatever you're doing, that'd be really, really cool. So we're a fully online class. Our primary platform for this class is going to be Discord, which is a really fun and quick way to interact with me and with each other. It's more text-based than voice, so we're going to have videos that go along with the class, like this one, where you'll go and you'll watch a video. It might be discussing some issues of the class, like today we're going to be going over the syllabus. More frequently, it's going to be a software tutorial when we're using software, multimedia software, to accompany the things that we're studying in the textbook. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at the syllabus and do the before the first class stuff that's noted there. Install the Houdini software and make sure that that runs all right for you, because we're going to start using that right in the first class, and you do need to have a computer that can run that software, and that's the software that has the most stringent requirements in terms of what the basic needs of the computer are in order to run. So if Houdini runs on your computer, then any other software we are going to use in the class is also going to run on the computer. So I'm going to step through the syllabus now. First of all, I want to point out that the Department of Television and Radio is now the Department of Television, Radio, and Emerging Media, and this is a really significant change. We're no longer just a space for looking at the aesthetics and the production of television and radio. We are expanding the view of the department to really encompass the broad range of emerging media technologies in virtual reality, on the web, in physical computing, and you're all seeing how rapidly the media are changing and how media technologies are changing and how the possibilities that are created by new media technologies are changing the kind of work and the kind of artistic production that's being made in the media. So we're going to be looking at that, and in all of the courses that you're going to be taking in the TREM department, there's going to be a new and greater emphasis on the kinds of changes that are happening in the media due to rapid technological change. This means that sometimes the course catalog descriptions aren't going to necessarily fully match what's happening in the course, and hopefully that's an exciting thing for you, but it might mean that you're going to be taking some courses that are a little bit different than you expected as the department goes through this important and necessary but recent transformation. One of the places where that change is going to be really evident is in the need for computer and internet literacy. So even before TV radio became television, radio, and emerging media, it was already the most computer-intensive department in the arts at Brooklyn College. All production work, video editing, sound design, radio editing, color correction, visual effects, motion graphics, even screenwriting uses specialized software. You're just always interacting with a computer when you're working in the media. Even as a producer, I am constantly working on the computer, and computer literacy is an essential part of working in the media. So with the department becoming television, radio, and emerging media, the computational skills required to be successful in the major are even greater. So just please be aware of how much of a computing program television, radio, and emerging media is, and how much you're going to be interacting with the computer, and your fluency with computer use is going to be essential to your success in the major. So things like installing software, file and folder management, compression and decompression of files and folders, file transfer, cloud services, using search engines effectively, taking screenshots, making screen recording, and using online tools such as Blackboard, Discord, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, etc. These are all just basic needs and expectations of this course and pretty much every course that you're going to run across in TREM. And the courses don't teach these skills. You can get assistance from Brooklyn College in basic computing skills if you need that. But in general, if you don't feel confident in basic computing, you might want to talk with an advisor and see if a computationally intensive major such as TREM is the right major for you. If you have basic competency but want to improve your skills, fill gaps in your knowledge while taking this course or any course in TREM, you can do so. But this is going to be a learning process driven by you. This information is easily available on the internet. You can look things up like, I gave a couple examples here. File and folder management in Windows 10. How do I make a zip archive on a Mac? How do I join a Discord server? You've already done that one. How to convert an OGG to a WAV file. You can just look these things up. The information is all out there and readily accessible, but you are going to need to be comfortable and confident in going and finding the information you need in order to be technologically successful in this and really all the other courses in the TREM department. So as I mentioned, this is a fully online course. We'll have no in-person meetings. Discord, Blackboard, YouTube, and Vimeo be primary platforms. Blackboard will be used for grading, so you're going to want to be checking in on your Blackboard frequently. The assignments will be posted there. The grades will be posted there. And when you submit work, you'll be submitting them through Dropbox file requests, but you don't need a Dropbox account to do that. You'll just get a link from me. You click on the link. It'll give you a place to upload your work. We may use Google Docs. We may use Behance. In fact, I think we're going to use Behance today if we get to that. Discord is your primary means of communication with me, and because we're an online course, because we don't meet in person, you need to keep up a dialogue with me throughout the semester. So expect to be in touch with me once or twice a week over the course of the semester through messaging on Discord. And if you want to set up a phone call, that's absolutely fine. We can do office hours by Zoom, phone, Discord voice chat. Feel free to set up a call during the stated office hour times, or really whenever our schedules match up. I am not concerned with this idea of, only being accessible to you during the office hours. Quite the opposite, actually. Because we're an online course, we have the great benefit of, you can hop on the Discord server and post a question anytime, 24 hours a day. And if I'm available, I'll answer it. And if I'm not, I'll see it, as soon as I am available and respond to it. So really, we have a tremendous freedom in terms of, how much and when we interact. We're not, limited to that brick and mortar classroom. We're not limited to those stated office hours. So there's synchronous and asynchronous components to the course. The synchronous part is obviously our meeting time, our weekly meeting time, and stuff that we're going to be doing during that is synchronously viewed videos like this one, other videos that might not be viewed synchronously, but would watch them in class. We're going to do projects and homework in class with me being available on Discord to assist. We're going to be doing quizzes. And we'll do some in-class readings. We're going to do that today, and in-class projects. And when I say in-class, that just means during the synchronous portion of the course, so that I'm there and available for immediate feedback on whatever it is that you need. But there's going to be asynchronous components to the course too, and these will be projects that have a deadline, and then you'll typically submit something on Blackboard. So there'll be video tutorials and asynchronous videos, there'll be homework, there'll be projects, there'll be your opportunity to explore and find inspiration online, and well, we have a textbook, so there'll be a lot of readings as well. So the catalog description of the course, as I mentioned, remains fairly accurate, but just be aware that since television and radio is now TREM, and these descriptions have not yet been updated, there may be significantly more to the course than what the catalog description suggests. So the catalog description says, application of basic production theories and techniques, relationship between the tools and the language of sight, sound, and motion, and the theories that have evolved around them, practice in the use of tools with a view to strengthening the basis of aesthetic judgment on matters of oral, visual, kinetic communication. I think that's all really basically still true, just with the development that the tools are now multimedia tools. We're going to be working with 3D graphics in a virtual space in order to look at lighting, in order to look at color, in order to look at composition, rather than in the past we would have been taking a camera or using a smartphone, which we may do as well, but we're also going to be using the Houdini software and possibly some other software as well. So in the course, we're working through the concepts in the textbook, which is Herbert Zettel's Sight, Sound, Motion, using these multimedia tools. So we'll explore all the aesthetic considerations of television and emerging media. We'll look at color, composition, time, sound, many more elements. The course will also serve as an introduction to multimedia production, and it's a very good preparation for, in particular, my section of TREM 3841, which is the multimedia production course, because we'll be using some of the same software that I use in that course. So this is not a production course per se. In other words, you're not creating major personal artistic projects in the media, but you will be making things. You'll be making a lot of stuff. You'll be working with sounds, you'll be working with images, you'll be working with multimedia, you'll be working with 3D graphics, maybe even some simple animation. One of the things that's important to consider is that this is an aesthetics course within a school of the arts. So yes, it's the Department of Television and Radio and Emerging Media. It is an arts program. Our focus in this major in this department is on you as an artist, as a creative producer. So the goal of this course is to help you develop as an artist. And if you don't already see yourself as an artist, this is a great course to help you to begin to understand creativity, what it is, how to access it, and what is your creative vision, and the tools and the craft of creating art, and in our case, creating media art. And this is a quotation from the course textbook, because I think that Zettel is very much aligned with this. Zettel, is writing about television and film primarily in the textbook, but he thinks like an artist. So one of the things we're going to be doing in this class is looking at video tutorials. I'm going to be showing you, and not just me, actually our first tutorial is going to be by someone else, but it's a very good tutorial and I thought I'd use it. Learning how to use tools through tutorials. And learning from tutorials has been for several years an essential professional skill. With the combination of remote work, online learning, and the proliferation of online tutorials for an incredible variety of tasks and tools, it's likely that you'll do the majority of your learning from tutorials as soon as you enter the professional world, probably all your learning. The classroom is going away. And someone sitting there and showing you how to do something in meat space, in a brick and mortar space, is really a concept that's going to evaporate, almost completely, particularly in our field, because tutorials are so effective, in part because you can pause them and you can rewind them and you can watch them as many times as you want, and you can take them as slowly as you want. They're a great, great learning tool. They're so much better than trying to learn tools and techniques in a classroom setting, and particularly when you have something like Discord to accompany that, where you can ask questions and get responses almost immediately during class time, and even very quickly outside of class time. You've got a great situation for learning. So I'm going to guide you through strategies for effective learning from tutorials throughout the class, but starting now with a few basic tips. It's not useful to watch a tutorial. They're not for watching. They're for doing. I sadly often see students waste many hours watching and rewatching tutorials. They say, I watched it 5 times. Don't watch it 5 times. Do it once, really, really slowly, pausing regularly and making sure everything works as you go. Always do a tutorial, following, making, building every step along with the instructor. In the case of my tutorials, which are highly packed by design, this is particularly the case. What I mean by packed is I'm not going to be like chit-chatting about other stuff in the tutorials. I'm going to get right down to business and give a lot of information in a very short period of time. And that, that takes us to the next bullet point, which is tutorials are meant to be constantly paused and rewound. In the beginning, when you're working with a packed tutorial where the material is presented densely and quickly, you're hitting pause 5 to 10 times a minute and rewinding 3 to 5 times a minute. And this is not necessarily the way you're used to watching videos, but when you're dealing with a tutorial, that's how to do it. When budgeting time for a tutorial, multiply the tutorial length by 2 as a starting point. So if it's a 30-minute tutorial, give yourself at least an hour. Definitely not less than an hour. After doing a few, you'll get a better sense of your pace. And the pace will, of course, vary with the difficulty of the tutorial. It's really important that when you're making or building the thing that's being demonstrated in a tutorial, you got to make sure it works at every point. And at the end of the tutorial, that you've built something that works exactly as the demonstrated version does. But remember, the goal of the tutorial is not to build the thing that you're building in the tutorial. This is hard for a lot of students, right? The tutorial is a learning tool. So the goal is to learn how to use the tool, learn the techniques, learn the concepts behind the techniques. You will never build the thing that was demonstrated again. Tutorials are typically arbitrary demonstrations to help you learn the tool or technique. Like there's a really good Houdini tutorial that's about making a donut and putting icing on the donut and putting sprinkles on the donut. What are the chances that you're ever going to need to, in a professional setting, make a 3D model of a donut with sprinkles? It's highly unlikely. It has nothing to do with the donut. It's not about the donut. It's about learning how to use the tool. And you can use a silly example to learn how to use a tool. A donut is as good as anything else. If you were trying to make a dragon, that would be too complicated for the tutorial. If you're trying to make a jet plane, that's going to be too complicated. Make a donut. It's nice and simple. You learn the tools. Then you go on and you make a dragon. You make a jet plane. You make a city. You make whatever you want. So just remember that tutorials are intentionally simple in the sense that you're not making the thing that you're eventually going to make with them. You're making something inconsequential, something silly, so that you can learn the tools and then go on and use the tools for your own creative or professional purposes. So immediately after completing a tutorial, you budget time to work with the things that you just learned. work with the tools, techniques, the concepts you were just introduced to. If you have homework, start it immediately after you finish a pass through the tutorial. Don't wait. You want to reinforce these ideas while they're fresh. So you also got to budget that time. And particularly in the beginning, you need to do more than one pass on a tutorial. On the first pass, you will learn about the tools and techniques, be exposed to one application of them. In a subsequent pass, then you can start to generalize your knowledge. What are the concepts behind the tools? What are the other possible applications? Have you ever put together IKEA furniture? It's the same idea. The first time you go really, really slowly, you follow every step, in the IKEA instructions, and you build the thing, and it takes a long time. I just had a case where I had to put together 4 of the same sets of IKEA cabinets. So the second time through, I still relied heavily on the instructions, but it went a lot faster because I remembered a lot. And I started to get the feel, I started to understand why, they put things in the order that they put them, and how the parts work together. The third cabinet I made went really fast, and I only had to look at the instructions a few times. And the fourth cabinet I made it entirely without the instructions. I didn't need to refer to the instructions a single time. And I put it together quickly and confidently because I had done multiple passes through the instructions. And it works the same with a tutorial when you're learning software tools. So let's talk about access to me and asking good questions and how to use the answers to those questions. Because in an online course format, it's really driven by you. I'm going to provide you with the information. I don't have the feedback that I would have in a meat space, brick and mortar classroom setting where I'm getting the sense of like, oh, I got to slow down. People are not following, or getting a lot of questions on a particular topic. You need to be proactive on the Discord, and you need to ask questions so that I can respond to each one of you where you're at. But also there's a huge advantage to working online, which is I can really respond to all of you. In a brick and mortar classroom setting, a couple people raise their hands, a couple shy people don't raise their hands, a couple people, don't get a chance to ask their question because they run out of time, or they didn't think of the question until later, or they thought of the question and they forgot it and then it came back to them later. On Discord, you can ask that question whenever you remember it, whenever you think of it. And then whenever I get a chance to, I will answer it. Or if it's during the class time, I'll answer it right away. So, the things that are lost from being in a online format, I think, are more than made up for by the by having these digital tools for interaction that give us a lot of flexibility. So I am essentially constantly available to you via Discord, and I want you to be in contact with me regularly. As I mentioned, we'll chat on Discord, at least twice per week. Maybe not, once or twice a week. But I'm also available to you via scheduled Discord voice chats, phone calls, and I look forward to speaking with every one of you. That's kind of a fun part of an online class, is you hear a lot of my voice, and I don't get to hear your voices, so it's nice when we get to talk with each other. Asking good questions has always been a key to effective learning, and in an online course, formulating good questions is even more essential. So in this course, questions about course material are to be asked on Discord. While voice communication is encouraged for discussion, let's talk about strategies, let's talk about approaches to the material, let's talk about artistic feedback, or where to find your inspiration. If it's a question about a technical matter, that's going to be limited to Discord only. And one of the reasons for this is to build your skill in formulating good questions. Like learning from tutorials, asking good, effective questions is a learnable skill and an essential professional tool. So what is a good question? Well, there's a few parts to most good questions in this course. You want to clearly articulate the issue including necessary context. And you want to give a concrete example that illustrates the issue. And this is probably the most important and the most ignored part of asking a good question. You want to let me know what approaches you've already tried to address this issue and why you thought they might address the issue. That's a huge part of a good question. What have you already tried? Are you just, you get to something that you don't grasp immediately and you ask a question right away? That works against your learning. When you get to something that you don't understand, try something. Try multiple things. And then when those attempts don't work, then you ask the question and you say, and here's what I've already tried. And here's why I tried those things. And give a concrete example of what you've already tried. So asking a question should not just be an expression of not understanding. That's not a particularly useful question. We all don't understand stuff when we confront it for the first time. The first time you read a paragraph, you don't understand the paragraph. The first time you do a tutorial, you don't understand the tutorial. That is a known thing. It's your work to move from not understanding to understanding. That's the work of the student. And there will be points when you can't make that transition from not understanding to understanding. And that's where I come in. That's where I can help you. But I'm going to want to know, what have you already tried? So before sending a question, evaluate your own attempts to address the issue yourselves. What steps have you taken on your own specifically? Now, the other side, and this is a side that sometimes is disappointing and frustrating for students, is the answer to a good question is not simple. It will provide information as well as directions for further exploration in order to assure or deepen your understanding. So asking a well-formed question is also inviting more work for you. When you formulate your question, be sure to set aside time to actually explore the answer that you get. It's not going to be as simple as click here or do this. I mean, sometimes it will, but more often than not, if it's a question that has depth, it'll be an answer that has some depth, and it's an answer that's going to require something of you. So this next section of the syllabus probably doesn't apply too much to this course, but it's really something worth considering, as you enter into TREM as a major and as you begin to deal more with the use of the computers in media production. It's dealing with math, because computers are only capable of one thing, math. That's all they do. All they do is manipulate digits. We see that as images. We see that as colors. We hear that as sounds. We print it as text, but everything is encoded in the computer as numbers. While very simple software sometimes succeeds in hiding this numeric basis of computing, anyone wishing to move beyond the absolute basics of media will need to confront the wholly numeric basis of the computer as a tool. But there's really good news here. You don't have to do any of the math. The computer is vastly better at math than we humans are. And since math is its only true language, it doesn't balk at even the most complex calculation. But every time you instruct a computer, you're giving instructions about doing math. And once you begin working beyond the most basic level, you'll need to know something about the kind of mathematical instructions you're giving. Again, good news. This is often very simple. Usually it is as easy as knowing when to have the computer add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and if a series of operations is required, knowing which to do first. In other words, you need to be fluent in elementary school math concepts, the same math you use to understand your finances, do home improvement projects, cook and bake, follow sports, plan travel, etc. Also, the kind of math you need to know when you're dealing with multimedia computing is often about knowing the limits of ranges or relationships of numbers. I'll just give you two examples. The instantaneous amplitude of a digital sound, the volume of a sound at any given moment, is represented in the computer by a number between -1 and 1. Values below -1 and above 1 have no meaning in this context, but the average amplitude of a digital sound is represented by a number between 0 and 1. Thus, when speaking of averages, values below 0 and above 1 have no meaning. And we'll talk a little bit more, not in great depth in this class, but we'll talk a little bit more about why that is. But you need to understand that there's situations where certain numbers have meaning and other numbers don't have meaning. The reason, just briefly to tell you the reason for this, the instantaneous amplitude of digital sound actually represents the position of the speaker cone or the microphone diaphragm in that moment. So the sound of my voice right now is vibrating the diaphragm in this microphone, and it's moving back and forth. It's moving between the loudest possible push my voice could give it, which is 1, and the loudest possible pull, which is -1. That's the vibration. But the average amplitude is what we think of as the volume of my sound, of my voice, with 0 being silence and 1 being the loudest sound I would make. So two different ranges of numbers. They're both important, and they have different meanings. Another example is that sound is measured in decibels, and decibels are a logarithmic measurement. So every increase of 10 decibels results in a doubling of loudness. So amplifying a sound by 20 decibels will result in a sound that's perceptually 4 times louder, a doubling of a doubling. Every 10 decibels doubles the loudness of the sound. Now there's a footnote on this that I'll allow you to read, because some of you are saying, wait a second, I was taught something different than that. Well, yes, there's several different ways to think about decibels and their relationship to sound. The footnote addresses that. So there's no math in this course that should be even remotely difficult. The challenge is only in applying the knowledge you already have and can already use effectively in other contexts in a new and different way. Let's talk about coding for a second. This is a no-coding class. Houdini and also Max, which we may be using this semester, are going to be the software tools we use in this class because they're multimedia authoring environments that can be used without coding. They have the capability of coding within them, as do almost all node-based multimedia environments, but they distinguish themselves by allowing you near total access to the capabilities of the software with no code whatsoever. By comparison, most node-based environments like Max and Houdini require some coding within the first few weeks of study. But you can work in Max and Houdini for years without writing a line of code. So some people are going to see what we're doing in the tutorials and being like, coding? I didn't know we were doing coding in this class. You're not. It's not coding. That's not what coding is. Coding is actually writing textual instructions to the computer, which we won't be doing. We might have to type a few things that are somewhat code-like, but this is not a coding class. If you're interested in coding, take a computer science class. It's fascinating and it's a great investment to make for your for your professional future. But I'm going to try to avoid that in this course, and should be able to avoid it almost entirely. Not what you expected. If you didn't get in touch with me before the semester started, I'm quite confident that this course will not be what you expected. And as a general rule, and particularly if you're early in your undergraduate career, I recommend that you make a habit of contacting faculty before you register for a course and say, hey, well, can you share a syllabus with me? What is this course like? What's the focus? Here's my interests. How does this course interact with my interests? Your opportunity for university study is a tremendous gift, and it's all for you. We all of the professors, we are here for you to facilitate your learning. So you're not asking too much by reaching out to a professor and being like, hey, I'd like to discuss this course with you before I enroll. And I'm wanting to like structure my educational experience. And sometimes you just want to take a course because it looks cool and it looks interesting. But even so, why not reach out to the instructor and be like, where will we be going this semester? Like, what's the journey about? Because college classes are not objective. There's a personal viewpoint to each course. And this is not necessarily the instructor's viewpoint. In a class with a textbook like this one, the viewpoint is probably that of the textbook author. And, we are going to be, very focused on Zettel in this class. In a class on a particular artist or thinker, certainly it's that artist or thinker's viewpoint that drives the class. If you take a class on Nietzsche, you're going to be, talking and thinking a lot about how Nietzsche talked and thought. Although certainly the instructor's views on that artist or thinker will also be important. In an aesthetics class such as this, you have my viewpoint as an artist and a professional driving the class. Thus, what you are getting is my current personal, individual take on the material as a stepping off point and inspiration. Thus, without contacting me before the semester, there's no way you could have known what to expect. This is compounded by the fact that the TREM department is changing, and this course is one at the forefront of that change. The department's new emphasis on emerging media is causing a shift in the emphasis of many courses, and since emerging media is my field of specialty, this change is quite present in my courses. I don't understand this. I've never done anything like this before. I get that comment all the time in my classes, and my response is, excellent. These sound like the two best reasons to take a university course. You want to understand things that you don't currently understand. You want to do things that are unlike things that you've done before. That's one of the great opportunities of university study. And welcome. I hope you enjoy it. So, lynda.com and what you don't need to pay for anymore. We're going to be learning some software in this class. We're learning it as a tool to study and investigate what's in the textbook and for you to use as a creative tool. If you want to really learn a piece of software for professional use, for professional purposes, do not take a university class. Do not take a university class on Premiere Pro. Do not take a university class on Photoshop. Why? Because with a Brooklyn Public Library account or a New York Public Library account, incredible free tutorials are available for all the major professional tools via the library web portal. It has never been easier and totally free to learn Photoshop, Pro Tools, Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere, Audition, all the stuff. Any of the stuff. There's no longer a reason for you to pay college tuition to learn these tools. This is a good thing in that it relieves college classes from needing to provide training in packaged software tools, which is neither an effective use of university class time nor student tuition dollars. The fact that these resources are available online and at no cost means that college classes, and particularly in a liberal arts focused curriculum such as this one, can spend more time on the liberal arts and creative aspects of their mission. So let's talk for a minute about time commitment. Plan for 2 hours of non-synchronous work for each credit hour. So since this is a 3-credit course, you should expect to spend about 6 hours per week on this class, in addition to our synchronous meetings, 9 hours per week total. This is a standard formula, standard formula. For university courses. However, many instructors at Brooklyn College do not apply it. I do. And you can fully expect to, on average, spend 6 hours per week on this class outside of class time. If you think that you can get through the class with a smaller time commitment, I assure you that you probably can't. This is particularly true in the production classes, and might be somewhat less true in this class, but still, that's the time that you should budget for yourself. And speaking of time, I include this paragraph because it's something that comes up a lot in my teaching over the years. 15 minutes is a really long time. If you meditate, play sports, play music, 15 minutes can be an incredibly long time. So much can happen in 900 seconds. 109-second things. 15 one-minute things. When you're working on a problem, how many things do you genuinely try in 15 minutes? How many potential solutions do you come up with, attempt to implement, and then interrogate their relative success, failure, or revelation of something new? In 15 minutes, how many discoveries can you make? Even if you're trying to solve one problem and don't solve it, how many things did you learn by genuinely making multiple different attempts? These are excellent questions to ask yourself when taking a careful look at how you work and how you study. Are you really using your time well? And the reason why I say this is because a lot of students will say, well, I say, what have you been doing? They say, I've been thinking about it. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with just thinking about it, but when you have a task in front of you, actively trying different solutions is a much better use of your time. And you're going to find that to be true in this class, and certainly in production classes, and certainly when you're on a set and you're under time pressure. Thinking through by doing and solving by trying rather than solving by thinking. It's not that it's not thinking, it is thinking, but it's a kind of active thinking. It's a kind of engaged thinking. If you're working with something new, if you're working with something novel, or if you're working under a time pressure, being active and actually using the time is more important than contemplating what you will do or contemplating how you will solve the problem. Trying to actively be solving the problem is a much better use of time and a much better learning tool.